Somewhere in the Persian Gulf, a fleet of American warships is moving into position. Their target is not Tehran, a missile base, or a nuclear facility. Their target is a small island, just 7 kilometers long, that handles 90% of Iran's oil exports, Kharg Island. If American forces seize it, Iran's economy collapses within days. The regime loses its ability to fund its military, its proxies, and its government. Pentagon planners believe this single operation could end the war, and the troops are already on their way. Kharg Island sits approximately 25 kilometers off the Iranian coast in the northern Persian Gulf. It is not large, it is not heavily populated, but it is the most strategically valuable piece of land Iran possesses. The island serves as the primary export terminal for Iranian crude oil. Massive storage tanks hold millions of barrels. Pipelines connect to the mainland. Tankers arrive daily to load cargo bound for markets across Asia. 90% of Iran's oil exports flow through Kharg Island. This is not an estimate. This is the reality of Iranian infrastructure. The regime built its entire export system around this single location because of its deep water port capabilities and proximity to the major oil fields in Khuzestan province. That decision, made decades ago for efficiency, has now become a critical vulnerability. In planning rooms at Central Command, American strategists identified Kharg Island as the center of gravity for the Iranian war effort. Oil revenue funds everything. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, militia groups in Iraq and Syria. Without oil money, all of these organizations begin to starve. Weapon shipments stop, salaries go unpaid, operations cease. The decision was made at the highest levels of the Pentagon. Rather than engage in a prolonged bombing campaign across Iranian territory, rather than risk a ground invasion of the mainland with uncertain outcomes, American forces would execute a precise amphibious operation to seize and hold Kharg Island. Cut the oil, collapse the economy, force the regime to the negotiating table, or watch it fall. The planning for Operation Kharg Strike, as it has been designated in classified documents, began weeks ago. Naval forces were repositioned, Marine units were briefed, air assets were moved to forward bases. The operation is complex, it is risky, but Pentagon officials believe it is the fastest path to ending the conflict. More than 17,000 American troops have now arrived in the Persian Gulf region in preparation for expanded operations against Iran. This represents the largest concentration of American combat power in the Middle East since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And unlike previous deployments focused on counterterrorism, these forces are configured for high-intensity conventional warfare. The centerpiece of the amphibious force is the USS Tripoli, a modern America-class amphibious assault ship. At 844 feet long and displacing over 44,000 tons, the Tripoli is essentially a light aircraft carrier optimized for Marine Corps operations. Her flight deck can launch F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters and MV-22 Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft. Her well deck can deploy landing craft carrying troops, vehicles, and equipment directly onto enemy beaches. Aboard the Tripoli are approximately 2,500 Marines from a Marine Expeditionary Unit. These are not rear echelon support troops. They are infantry, reconnaissance specialists, combat engineers, artillery crews, and special operations personnel trained specifically for amphibious assault. They have rehearsed beach landings, helicopter insertions, and urban combat in environments designed to simulate Iranian coastal defenses. An additional 3,500 troops have deployed to the region in the past week alone. Army units, additional Marine reinforcements, special operations teams, logistics, and support personnel required to sustain combat operations over an extended period. The buildup continues daily as transport aircraft land at bases across the Gulf states. Supporting the ground forces is an armada of naval vessels. Aegis cruisers and destroyers provide air defense and cruise missile strike capability. Attack submarines lurk beneath the surface, ready to engage Iranian naval forces or launch Tomahawk missiles at shore targets. The USS Carrier Strike Group maintains station in the Arabian Sea, its air wing ready to establish superiority over the battle space. The force is assembled, the assets are in position, the Marines are ready. Military planners acknowledge that seizing Kharg Island will be neither simple nor bloodless. The island is within range of Iranian anti-ship missiles, artillery, and aircraft. Iranian forces have had decades to prepare defensive positions. Any assault force will face determined resistance from Revolutionary Guard units stationed on and near the island. The operation will begin with an intensive air campaign. F-35 stealth fighters will eliminate Iranian air defenses on the mainland coast opposite Kharg Island. Cruise missiles launched from ships and submarines will strike command centers, radar installations, and missile batteries. The goal is to establish air superiority over the target area before any Marine sets foot on the island. Once the air defense network is suppressed, Marine Ospreys and helicopters will launch from the Tripoli and other amphibious ships. The first wave will consist of reconnaissance teams and special operations forces tasked with securing the beach landing zones and identifying remaining enemy positions. They will mark targets for follow-on strikes and guide the main assault force to shore. The second wave brings the bulk of the Marine infantry. Landing craft will carry armored vehicles, artillery pieces, and hundreds of combat troops directly onto the island's beaches. Simultaneously, helicopter-borne Marines will conduct air assault operations to seize key facilities including the oil terminal, storage tanks, and port infrastructure. Holding the island once captured presents its own challenges. American forces will be exposed to Iranian counterattacks from the mainland. Cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, drones, and artillery can all reach the island. Sustaining the operation will require constant air cover, naval protection, and a steady flow of reinforcements and supplies. Pentagon planners estimate that maintaining control of Kharg Island will require rotating thousands of troops through the position indefinitely. The risks are significant, but the strategic payoff is potentially decisive. If American forces successfully seize and hold Kharg Island, the impact on Iran will be immediate and catastrophic. Oil exports will cease completely. Revenue that funds the government, the military, and the proxy networks across the region will disappear. The Iranian economy, already strained by years of sanctions, will collapse. Iran has warned of a punitive response if its territory is seized. Analysts expect the regime to launch everything it has remaining at American forces in the Gulf. Missiles, drones, fast attack boats, proxy attacks on American personnel throughout the Middle East. The initial seizure of the island may be the beginning of the fight, not the end. Critics in Washington argue that the administration is courting a wider war without a clear endgame. Capturing an island is one thing. Holding it against continuous Iranian attacks while managing the diplomatic and economic fallout is another. Some warn that the operation could drag the United States into exactly the kind of prolonged Middle Eastern conflict that the president promised to avoid. But supporters of the plan argue that decisive action is necessary. Iran has continued to strike American assets despite weeks of bombing. Its nuclear program continues to advance. Its proxies continue to threaten regional stability. Half measures have failed. Only by striking at the economic heart of the regime can the United States force a resolution. The troops are in position. The ships are ready. The aircraft are fueled and armed. 17,000 American service members await the order to execute an operation that could reshape the Middle East for a generation. Kharg Island, 7 kilometers of sand and oil infrastructure, 90% of Iran's economic lifeline, the most valuable target in the Persian Gulf, and America is coming for it.